Welcome to the LifeShine Generosity Project, where we promote reckless generosity. We encourage our guests to shine their light before others on their good deeds and honor God and His glory. Today our guest is speaker, author, business strategist, and coach, Kathleen Fariss. Kathleen, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, John. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
So let's start off with talking a little bit about what you do.
Yeah.
And even more importantly, why.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm an executive strategist and a business coach, and I come alongside leaders to help them look at how they've arrived where they are, whether it's by their own intention or the external factors that sometimes we can't control, and figure out how to help them become a more whole person and shine their light from the inside out.
Oh, that's neat. That so fits with the generosity program. I'm loving that. I dig that. So when you said executive strategist, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I sit down with business owners, founders, and look at how they've arrived in their organization and help them unpack to figure out from a strategic perspective of how they've arrived there. So maybe they're looking at how to grow themselves or grow their organization, or they found themselves stuck and they don't know how they've arrived there, whether it is because they don't have access to resources or they were brought up in the organization and magically just got the job that they got, which happens all the time, right? Somebody leaves and you have the role that you have.
And you get promoted and here you go.
And congratulations, jump into the pool and swim. And so I help them figure out how to look out into the future and then re-engineer back how they want to arrive into the future in that space. So whether it's moving their organizational forward, whether it's growing themselves or growing their staff, because you have to invest in your organization and in your employees in order to move your organization forward.
So they're stuck and they don't know why.
Yeah.
And so you kind of unpack, how did you get here in the first place?
Yeah.
That might give you some insights as to why they're stuck. And then it's like, okay, where are we going?
Yep.
And how do we move from stuck to that place?
Yeah. And then we map out a strategy, which is supporting the humans and also supporting the internal organization. So maybe it's their processes that they don't have any in place. And as a founder or a small business owner, that happens sometimes, right?
It happens a lot.
It happens a lot. You're really excited about starting your business and you have this great idea and it launches out in the world. And then you say, oh, I have no standard operating procedures in place. I have no job descriptions. Oh, I have to understand how to manage budgets. Oh, I need to hire staff. How do I do all of that? So I help them look at what's getting in their way of elevating their organization and themselves.
So is there sort of a size business that you're working with here? Employee number, revenue number that most ideally benefits from your services? I mean, the one-man show might not be the person that you're looking for.
Right.
But so help me understand a little bit what size, what's that organization look like?
Yeah, so I usually work with organizations that are larger or teams within a big bureaucracy, for example. So it might be a small team of 25 inside an organization that might have 300 to 500 employees.
Okay. That gives me a sense of scale.
Yeah. So that would be where the top leader says, hey, we're looking at how to move our organization forward. And our HR department, for example, might have somebody new who hasn't ever led as an executive director. And so they might bring me in to work with their executive director to create a strategy for HR, which then impacts the whole organization as a whole. And then with the family businesses, I work with organizations that are probably 100 plus employees.
Okay.
And again, looking at I come alongside the CEO or the founder, and then I work with their supervisors or their frontline leadership team.
So one of the challenges you solve is I'm stuck. I don't know how to I lost all my momentum. I'm stuck.
Yeah.
What are some of the other key challenges that you see your clients experience?
I would say that they are in a brand new position. They got promoted and they haven't realized why they're getting in their way. So maybe they have a master's degree and they're having to lead more strategically. So maybe they haven't done that all their life. Maybe they've been much more reactive than proactive. And one of my clients, for example, that's a perfect analogy, is she found herself where her new boss is all about being more visionary and holding herself and her employees accountable for their roles. So KPIs and things that measure success. So she's finding that she has to learn a whole new way of leading, and she hasn't led that way before.
Oh.
So I'm helping her look at how to put those processes in for herself, and then look at how does she change the culture in collaboration with her staff members to shift from, oh, I've always been taught to ready, aim, go, and now her boss is saying, no, I need you to pause what you're learning, how do we get to the next place, and be much more analytical and strategic instead of reactive.
Yes, or tactical even.
Yeah.
Just jump out. Let's just do something as opposed to not do something.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so some people have a hard time being strategic. Yeah. No doubt about it. So in your process, what does it look like when you begin working with somebody? What's the process that you use to start figuring this stuff out?
Yeah, so the one thing I tell our clients is I don't have a cookie cutter approach. Mm-hmm. I like to work with organizations and leaders to figure out what are our long-term goals that we want to meet. And then I create a package or a process based on that. So from a visioning perspective, I do have a 2-day program that I walk them through where it's one full day of visioning, and then the next full day is around now, okay, we have a vision, here's where we're going to get 3, 5, 10 years, and we're going to re-engineer back now and figure out tactically, to your point from earlier, here's the steps we're going to take, here's who's going to do the step by when. However, it's not, again, cookie cutter for everyone.
Yeah, it's always a little different.
It's always a little different because we have humans, we're coaching humans, right?
Yeah.
We're coming alongside leaders to help them figure out, how do they want to move their organization forward. So usually I do that, and then some of my other programs are 6 months, 12 months. It just depends on what we want the outcome to be.
Okay. So I want to move into this generosity topic, and I'm going to, we're going to share some things a little bit later on. I'm going to ask you for some wisdom and some tips and things to avoid, things to do. But right now, I kind of want to say, hey, how does generosity fit into your business? How does it fit into your life?
Yeah. So when you asked me that question before I came on, I said to my husband, am I really generous? Because, when you show up to be of service, like I've always been service above self. And my husband's like, well, you've always been generous. And I was like, oh, well, in what ways? So I went to my heart to say, how have I been generous? And for me, each time I've been in some space and felt called, then I'll volunteer to do some work with no expectation of getting something in return. And so one of the ways I do that is with the Kindness Games, which is a global effort to support leaders to lead from a space of kindness. And as a leader, when you lead from your heart and be kind, then there's so many other rewards that come to you as a leader that you don't necessarily see when you start leading from a space of kindness and seeing the human, right? The human sitting in front of you. Uh-huh. And so when they launched in 2020, the founders, Tim and Lee, I said, hey, if you ever want somebody to come on board and help you operationalize TKG, I'd love to do that. So I've been working with them since 2020, serving as their volunteer COO, and the just giving of that and being exposed to so many other people to see them excelling in what they do. For me, that's just been such a blessing to be in that space with all of them.
I think of Kindness Games as a little bit of a kindred spirit. Obviously I'm focusing in on generosity, but kindness is a component of generosity. Yeah. Just being kind to somebody is an act of generosity, and it doesn't cost anything. I mean, there's no big investment. No. Saying please and thank you and being grateful, and those are all acts of generosity. They're just very, very simple. But what's interesting is, and I know you've experienced this, I'm going to ask you to share more about it, but when you do that, it makes you feel good. Yeah. I mean, you didn't do it so that you would feel good.
No,
you didn't plan that out. You didn't intentionally say, look, I'm going to say thank you.
I just felt called to do it.
But you just did it.
Yeah.
And it felt better. And sometimes, there are situations, there's adversity everywhere. You don't know where everybody else is coming from. And, some weird situation, somebody says something odd to you, and not reacting in anger or not acting in defensiveness or something like that, but just reacting from the heart with kindness is an act of generosity. I mean, generosity is, if we've got the money, we can donate it. Mm-hmm. help to serve, but not everybody has a lot of money. So there's just lots of different ways to do generosity. And the kindness games came right out of, the turmoil. I guess I don't know any other way better to say the turmoil that we experienced
at the height of it,
in 2020. So that's pretty amazing. And so you are COO, right?
Yeah, so we're all volunteers.
It's not a paid gig, is it?
No. And you know what? I feel like when it first started, again, it was a space for Tim and Lee to really feel like how could they be generous with their own words to help elevate and help other leaders heal, because it's all about healing from the inside out. And so, they were being generous of their time. They've been speaking at, I can't tell you how many organizations the past couple months. And again, it's all of us just being generous with who we are and sharing our gifts and love and light, as Lee says, with everyone else around us and helping them in turn be generous, because then it impacts
we have to model it.
Yeah, it's true.
We have to model it.
Yeah.
And I, with everything that we've gone through the last couple of years, it just kindness games, warms my heart in the sense that, here's another group that is trying to push against, in some ways pushing against the tide.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever, quote, win that game, but you got to keep pushing.
Yeah.
You got to keep making it happen. So with respect to Fariss, coaching and consulting, where does generosity show up?
Yeah, so for me, I find that giving back to the next generation and moms. So I volunteer for the Mom Project, and they have a program called the Rally Program. And so you can volunteer to be a booster or a boostee. So I'm a boostee. So I have the opportunity to give back to another mom. We apply to the program, and they match us with someone else that we can be of service to help them along their journey. And it's once a month. However, the first month, and I told my husband, I felt like with the first lady I talked to, I said, I really want to pour into you. Would it be okay if we did it once a week instead of once a month? And if we need to reschedule, I totally understand what she was really looking at, how she got a toddler, her husband has cancer. And I just said, is there a way that, we can do it once a week to figure out where she wanted to go? Again, in a space of how does she take care of a tiny human and her husband, and then shift her career. And so, it's been 6 or 7 months, and it's only a 3-month program, but I continue to want to pour into her and again, doing it with no expectation. But now I have a dear friend who I admire. I've learned a lot from her too, but it really allows us to give back. So I enjoy doing that. And then I mentor quite a few of my son's friends who reach out to me, and I warn him in advance, our younger son. I say, hey, so-and-so reached out to me, so-and-so, really want to be able to support them. So I enjoy doing that. And then, what I think is interesting as with top coaches, when Zach,
top coach.
When Zach reached out for top coaches and top teams, I met him when I originally worked for the Director School of Management, and he said, hey, I've got this really great idea. I'm going to launch this top teams and top coaches. Would you, can you come on as a founding coach? And I love to give back. And again, not having an expectation other than being generous with, the world has given me so much and so many people have given to me. And so I wanted to be generous back with my time and energy and talent. So it's,
well, that's where we met on Top
journey.
Coach. And, same kind of concept, right? I just believe that that's a good path, and it's worth investing my energy and my time in. I don't know what my expectation is, but I believe great things are going to happen there.
Yeah.
When you're working with your Mom Project, you believe this is it. And I don't know, what is it that, maybe you could help me. What is it you think sparked you and said, hey, you got to go do this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, so many people have given back to me along the way, and I see the good in others, and then I'm fulfilled by championing someone else and coming alongside them and serving as more like a guide. So it warms my heart to be behind the scenes and have someone say, hey, your support helped me become a better version of myself. So that for me is the reward.
That's an almost instantaneous benefit, but you didn't do it to get that, but it warms your heart.
No.
Joy, self-satisfaction. So, all of those things. And then usually it comes around the corner and shows up again over here in some unexpected blessing.
That you don't expect.
Right. And you're not doing with it an expectation.
No.
I don't know. For me, I used to, I think God gives me nudges. Says you got to go down this path. And I just, whenever I think this is the right path, I don't know that I give myself credit for that. I just say God's pushed you and don't argue.
We need to pay attention to what we're being called to do something now. We need to lean completely in and do it.
So
totally agree.
Working with Zach and Top Coach and now this generosity project, which is really all about, can we show and share the value of generosity? Can we begin to change some of the mindsets that are out there? Because the last couple of years have been difficult for everybody. And, can we find a way to shift, and can we find a way to be more generous, maybe a little more compassionate, and to deliver more? And whether it's your time, which is maybe the most valuable thing, you never get it back, can't make any more. Certainly, if you've got the revenue, the funding that you can support people with, and and sometimes it's just a quick conversation, or it's gratitude, or thank you, or kindness. The one I heard the other day is that somebody started saying, "Thanks for being here." Right. So how many stores do we go into today where there's a sign that says we're short-staffed? Yeah.
Please be nice to all the humans that are here because they've showed up to serve you today. Absolutely.
And so thank you. Thanks for being here, right? Because if you're not here, I certainly can't get money.
I said that to a Starbucks employee last week. I said, "Thank you so much for coming to work today." One of the locations was closed for a couple of weeks because they couldn't get enough staff to come in. And I just said, "Thank you so much for coming to work and serving us."
Yeah. And it's another small act of kindness, a small act of generosity. And so that's my intention with this, is to make that happen. So I really appreciate you coming on. But before you leave, I want to get into the next parts, which is really in your kind of moving back. And I'll bet you spend a little time and energy and thinking outside of the time with your clients, trying to figure out what's the best way, where to go. And you're probably not keeping track of that. You're just trying to do the best you can with what you have. And so for somebody that's in your wheelhouse, so to speak, this executive, what would you tell them to avoid? Don't do this. What should they avoid?
So what I would tell an executive is avoid thinking that everyone is the same.
Oh my God.
Because they're not.
I had that. When I was young, I thought that.
I was totally wrong. Like, I go back to my early.
Everybody knows how to do this, right? No, not true.
Not true. Absolutely no, not true. And so if you look at the person in front of you and you remember what it was like to be a novice, not knowing what you knew, and then making sure that you come alongside that individual and support them in becoming whatever it is they want inside your organization to be, then I feel like you've done your due diligence. Because humans are not, again, going back to my point from earlier, they're not numbers. We're all different, and we all have different operating manuals. So come alongside that individual to help them create their manual.
Yeah, that is an outstanding. Thank you for that. That was
welcome.
Outstanding, because it hit me right here. Because I remember I was in the corporate world in my 20s, and I used to think everybody else thinks like me. Everybody knows how to do it.
Yep.
And then I was disabused of that notion. And I just wish I had learned it sooner.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I go back to those days and people either liked me or hated me. I know that's a strong word. However, thank goodness I have changed and have grown in those ways, and am a much more generous person now than I was back then. So we all have to learn to get out of our own way. And I think that's the other thing I would tell executives. You really have to be open and be vulnerable and look at you investing in your own leadership first. Because if you don't invest in your own leadership, you cannot invest in someone else's. It's like filling your own bucket. You got to do that first.
Yeah, so that's something you should do.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of bouncing back and forth between what I want. Is there anything else that they should avoid that you've seen? Hey, this is you don't go down this path.
Don't go down that path. That's a great question. Don't fight going down the path that your intuition is telling you to do.
So follow your intuition, right? There's
Trust.
Something going on.
Yeah, pay attention to what's going on inside of you and ask yourself more great questions.
Why is that happening? How come I feel
What's
that
going
way?
on here? What do I need to pay attention to? Because the future comes to us, and if we're not paying attention to it, it bypasses us. It's like our calling from God. If we don't pay attention to us, then we could have missed something. And then it keeps coming back around, and we get another opportunity until we learn that lesson.
Yeah. And I think you have to be observant. Sort of, and to be present, we have to be mindful. We have to sit here and say, "Oh, I feel this," because it's so easy. And hey, I've done it, where you're just working hard and you're just driving right through, and it's months later where you realize, like, how the heck did I get here? Where did I make that turn? All right, so from a leader standpoint, the folks that you're dealing with, I don't want to talk about imposter syndrome. I don't know if you see this much, but think more in terms of what they should do. What other recommendations do you have as to what new leaders, in many ways, should do?
Hire a coach.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. I would access some books. I would read books.
What books? Okay, so let's talk about wisdom.
Oh, wisdom.
Let's talk about wisdom. Where
Oh,
do you
yes.
what would you recommend? Where do they get wisdom?
So it depends on who they are. Again, I don't have a cookie cutter approach, but I love Brene Brown's books because it's all about vulnerability and figuring out, how to invest in yourself. Leadership books, of course. Peter Drucker books. Gotta throw that in there.
Yeah. I'm a Drucker fan.
Yeah. There's so many books I could think of, but yeah. And get a mentor. So somebody that has potentially been on the path that you want to go on to, and then figure out how you can learn from them, even if it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, don't try to do it all by yourself.
No.
Is what I'm hearing you say. Whether it's a coach or a mentor, it's the same concept.
Personal board of directors, too. That's putting in place people that can champion you, can call you on the carpet when you're doing the wrong thing, and you can take some good constructive feedback. Other people that really are just supporting you in your path. So surround yourself with a community and make sure that whoever is in your circle, there's at least one person that's way wicked smarter than you are. Because we're the average, who said that? We're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with?
Right.
Yeah, somebody needs to be an aspirational person in your life so you can continue to invest in yourself and elevate and help them.
Yeah. Even when I think about smarter than me, I mean, there are a lot of people that are smarter than me.
Yeah.
But they might be smarter than me in this space or that space or that space, right? And there's still a lot of value that they bring to my conversation. I really like the personal directors. I mean, I know that I reach out to my friends when I throw an idea. This generosity project, I bounced this off of several people, and it was like, I think you like doing it. This is where you want to go. You could enjoy, make something happen with this, which is really my goal. My objective is to really make something happen with this. So, listen, I just want to say thank you so much for being generous with your time to get down here and get into studio and spend time with us and share your wisdom and who you are. The kindness games, the mom projects, but really nice to hear about. And again, I think feel somewhat kindred spirits to those. So I really want to say thank you, and I appreciate your generosity for being here.
Well, thank you for being generous and inviting me to participate. And I just love the work that you're doing, because when you come alongside people and help them shine their light, then it impacts others around the world. So thank you.
That's what we want to do. Be that pebble in the pond, the light, have it spread out. So thank you. For those of you that are watching, thank you for joining us today. We ask that you be a little generous and scroll down and leave a comment and hit that subscribe button. If you'd like to know more about the LifeShine project, there is a LifeShine community. You can find out more at LifeShine.live, Live. Thanks again for joining us, and may your light shine brighter today and tomorrow and going forward.